La, ta-da. If I remember doing this live stream thing. Hola community, welcome to Blender.Today 2022. What a year. What a start of a year. We have 3.0 is out since the last episode, since the last time we saw each other. 3.0 is out. 3.1 enters beta. Like it went from Beacon 1, like getting new features, to Beacon 2, to getting those features more stable, to Beacon 3, beta in like 2 days. On Wednesday, Blender 3.1 is going to enter beta, which means 3.2 is going to enter alpha. How long has it been? It's been only 2 months, but somehow it went from 3. When I left, it was 293 still. The stable release, and now we're talking about 3.2. Gee, that time flies. Okay, we have a gigantic list. I have a 24-inch screen here, full screen. I still can't fit all of the features. I think it's over 130 or 40. So it's gonna be a long show today. I will try to go as fast as possible. There is a link in the description where you can see the entire. It didn't even fit in the description of the YouTube video, so you're gonna have to click on the link to paste all, and there you can read. You can see the links of what I am seeing here. So first of all, I'm gonna be showing the latest. So I'm gonna be downloading here, and I don't know if you've seen it today, but there is a little spoiler here of what is coming also this week, I believe. If everything goes according to plan, there is an update to 3.0, 3.0.1, which contains a bunch of bug fixes, just in the same way that that we have the point releases, 2.83, 0.1, 0.2, 0.4, the same with 3.0. So 2 new releases this week. The changes from 3.1 to beta and the 3.2 alpha. What a start of the year. But that's not all, actually. There is also a what's going to happen in 2. Let's start calling the years with like point releases. So let's see what's on in store for 2022. There is a bunch of projects that have been proposed. I'm not going to go through the entire blog post because we are going to be running out of time today. I wanted to mention that the list of projects that have been mentioned here in the blog post, in case you already seen it, we shared it on social media before. So in case you already seen it, just making sure that that is clear that the list here is only for developers of the Blender Institute. Doesn't mean that nothing else but these 4 projects are going to be happening. Of course, the Blender being an open source software and community driven, sometimes there are projects that appear out of nowhere. So yes, let's see how long is the list of changes. It's just insane. Geometry nodes, we have the compositor changes, user interface, animation, grease pencil, line art, asset browser, cycles, video sequence editor, nodes in general, not only geometry nodes, compositor, sculpt. No, there was one change in sculpt, but actually got reverted, so no. Performance, and the potpourri section, which contains sections of Blender I haven't even covered yet. So okay, let's start with some UI. Let's start with the UI stuff. Wait, do I have my sound? Yes. Let's start with the UI. Some little changes here and there. It's gonna be a long list. So hey, in the user interface, actually there is an option now to change in the curve widget. Now you can change the handle type. So these buttons down here now allow you to better control like the handles of a curve, just like regular curves. In the node editor, there is an option now to hide or show the context path. So let me open Blender, which I just downloaded now. Let's see. Just to hide the new context path that was added in in 3.0. This path now it can be hidden from the regular list of overlays. Let me keep it here. I don't know. There, cool. So yeah, now you can hide it. It's an overlay. What else should be there? Is the grid an overlay or is it an underlay? Food for thought. Let me know what you think. There is a new setting to copy to selected for ID properties. What does it mean? Well, that now you can, I had COVID a few weeks ago. Now I'm fine, I think. That now you can copy to selected or even hold Alt to copy to selected or apply to multiple objects the settings that you set in the geometry nodes. So that it's super powerful. Like it extends to every custom property in every ID property in the objects in the mesh. So super powerful. The undo history operator is no longer an operator that like a pop-up. It used to be that you hit undo history and it would show you the here in undo history. It used to be an operator that it will open and then you could see which steps to go. Now it's a list like a regular menu, so it's easier to access and you can assign it also you can have it as a menu, so you don't have to enter that operator, and it also doesn't mess with your operators list, which is always nice. What else? Material preview. This is in 3.0 actually. This is before I left. Before the end of the last show. So yeah, the preview for the spheres in like cycles or in Eevee was wrong. It had the UVs all stretched up here. That now has been fixed by Dalai. So thank you, Dalai, for that. What else? There's a new icon in the for the blend files. No longer has the Blender icon here. So if you notice anything different here, is it because yeah, this has changed. It used to be the Blender icon, which is wrong. It's a blend file icon. Then Blender looks better now. You may haven't noticed, but it's in the little things. Look at the craft, the pixel pushing by Lone Noel. You can I don't know if you noticed, but in the past, if you were zoomed out, the roundness of some buttons didn't scale well. So it looked like a little peel widget. And when you zoom in, it will be smaller. So it wasn't fixed with the zoom. Now it is. Now, finally it is. So it's a very small change, but it's applied all over the UI. So it just looks better, looks nicer. It's one of those things, you know, that when done in all over Blender, it really makes a difference. Also, string search. This is more UX than UI. There is a new setting. This is internal inside of Blender. There's a new setting for giving weight to a search result. What does it mean? Well, it means that in some contexts, maybe you want to search for a specific word, but in for example, if you're looking for a node or if you're looking for an operator, especially in nodes, because in nodes really change depending on the context. If you are looking for textures, if you're looking for sockets, for a new feature that I'm going to mention in a bit in the node editor, it's important to specify which result is going to be more relevant depending on the current object that you have selected, the current texture, material type, or on cycles or Eevee, or there are many reasons why sometimes the search results should not only depend on how you write it, but also on the context. So this is super nice. It's going to improve the search a lot. It has to be done one by one, but like in a specific case, it has been added already. I think I have it on the list of node improvements. The other improvement, this is amazing. Simon Lenz, I think it's the first time I see a patch by you, so if that is the case, welcome. Thank you for this. If you use the movie clip editor, you may have noticed that there were no defaults for some of the values, for most of the values. Actually, I think there were no defaults at all. What are the defaults? Well, you know, when you right click on a setting, let me flip. When you right click on a setting and you reset to default, or for example, render setting, reset to default value, if you go, for example, if you don't like this, or if you change it by mistake and then you're unsure because you're in a section of Blender that you know the magic number that is the default, you can right click default or hit backspace with the mouse over that widget. That wasn't implemented at all in the movie clip editor, which is really important because the movie clip editor has very specific values for tracker sensitivity or sizes and stuff. So thanks to Simon, now it is. So yay, thank you for that. It's a lot of monkey work, but it's super, super important. Okay, what else is important? Performance. Look at the difference in performance when browsing a UI list with previews, with like big icons, or in this case with post library. Look at the difference. On the left is the old and the right is the new. Especially if I don't cover the results, it's even better. Look how laggy it was. That is has to do with something with scaling of the icons, which now happens in the GPU, is handled by the GPU. So much faster. Thank you, Julian, for working on this. Yeah, difference is insane. So happy to see perform. Actually, a whole section of today's episode is just related to optimizations everywhere, all across the board. So the 3.0 series, I think, is going to be a big milestone for improving performance all across the board. All right, I think it's time to change sections. I already covered most of the UI. There are some parts that belong to the node editor or the animation editors. So let's switch quickly to a few changes that have happened in the texturing workflow. Yes, that you don't hear that often, so it's cool to hear this, to see this kind of changes, such as this, baking. There is a new method to generate the margin of when you bake based on adjacent faces. So Martijn Verstig has improved this in a way that reduces the discontinuities on UV seams by giving a better match of the texture filter colors on both sides of the seam. It works by using pixels from adjacent faces, and this is by default. It's a new setting that is on by default, so it should just work better for now, like without changing anything. But if you want the previous behavior, for some reason, maybe it doesn't, if it doesn't work the way you expected, you can change it. It's called extend. That is the previous, that's the name of the previous method. So in the tool header, when you are vertex painting or weight painting, now you're gonna find the secondary color. Oh, sorry, texture paint or vertex paint, not weight paint. There is no secondary color there. But the secondary color when you are vertex painting, for example, it was available here as a tool. This setting was available to change the secondary color, so you can quickly change between two colors. This wasn't available in the header, now it is. For consistency, yeah, you don't have to open the sidebar all the time. Bardap, yeah, that's the name of the developer. I didn't know how to say Bardap. Habla español, yes, I hablo español. Couldn't tell. If you're interested in Spanish content, I make this same show in Spanish later. Okay, the last change actually hasn't made it to the key map yet. It's just an internal change that allows you to use smooth and to use invert operators in vertex paint and weight paint. However, that is not hooked up to the key map. So you have to do it manually. It was added like half an hour ago. Like, yeah, like this plus 2 hours. Yeah, it was really recent. So may change for next week. Okay, I think that covers what I had for texture and UV. Let's switch into another topic that is not often covered, which is animation. Animazi. So, video editor update. Yes, there is some video editor changes coming up, but let's see animation. So, there is a little change for action, but not little actually, quite a big one. You can now mark actions as if they are cyclic. An action can be cyclic and is a property of the action itself. So, for example, if you make a little change in one of the keyframes at the beginning, for example, it's going to propagate after to the other. Like if you make a change in one of the curves, it's going to change. It's going to apply to the other curves as well, without you having to go and add a F curve modifier, like a cyclic modifier. So that is super awesome. All right. The next improvement. Oh, by the way, yeah, I can maybe show. I think there was a screenshot where to find this setting. And yes, here it's in the action and it's called cyclic action. All right, the next change. Oh, by the way, yeah, you can specify manual frame range. I think it should be called custom frame range. But yeah, you can specify that too for an action. Okay, the other change is in the graph editor. Let's jump into the graph editor, because now you can use the blend to neighbor. So you can blend in Blender. You can blend a certain keyframes that you have selected towards the neighbor on the left or on the right. You just search for that. I don't think it has a shortcut assigned to it, but you should search for blend to neighbor, and it should be in the menu as well. So you can assign it. You can assign a shortcut. But that same widget is also used in the implementation of the breakdowner, which not only works for poses, but also now all works in the graph editor. So yay for that, for sharing functionality between editors. So same thing, breakdown, and now the selected vertices, you can blend between the left or the right side. Super cool. Let's see. And last but not least, this has more to do with rigging than animation, but when you're rigging, the bone overlay can get on the way. So now there is a setting to change the opacity of it. You can fade it away or not. Okay. Let's I think that's all with animation. Let's switch quickly into the 2D side of Blender. Let's cover a little bit of what is Grease Pencil and line art. Okay, in Grease Pencil, I feel like I'm going fast, but I think it's the right speed because there's so much to cover today. Maybe next week I'm gonna run out of things to show, but hey, today we're gonna have a fun time. So, Grease Pencil, there is a new modifier in town for Grease Pencil objects. It's called the Shrink Wrap modifier. You probably know this one already from the Shrink Wrap for meshes, and it's now applied to Grease Pencil objects, so they can adapt or project into other objects. Isn't that great? Wait, this is like line art in a way, right? It's like homemade, homebrewed line art, where a Grease Pencil object snaps to the to another object, to geometry on another side, I think, right? Yeah, in a way, it feels like that. Let's see the settings, and maybe in the video in full screen it shows. If I call my evil twin on the other side, there we go. Yes, near a surface, project, snap mode, offset. Yeah, pretty much same as in the as for meshes. Well done, team, Grease Pencil team, Antonio, if I believe. Yeah, randomize options have been added to the length modifier. And I feel I already seen this. Isn't this in 2. Wait, when was this committed? Well, I think I mentioned this already, but yeah, there is now randomized settings in the length modifier. So you can randomize a specific start and end, for example. So I think there is in the patch itself, there were some, yeah, here. So there was this nice little example that allows you to randomize the ends of the strokes. And because the length modifier is applied after the multiple strokes, it randomizes each multiple stroke individually. Isn't that great? Super, super nice. Okay, the other change, I think we can jump into line art. Well, it's all part of the same family, right? So line art, you can now invert the collection option. So you can limit the line art to a collection. Now you have a little icon to invert it. That's the same as when you invert, for example, a vertex group with the little arrow next to the field. The line art chaining now is noise tolerant. What does it mean? Well, less jaggy edges. So I think there is a, here you can see. So before you can see how jaggy the edges were. And by tweaking this value, you can make it more round, more like soft. So super neat to avoid the zigzag. There is a setting called preserve detail, which keeps the detail of the surface much more detail. And you can turn that off if you want super smooth edges. And here as well. So cool. So cool. Look at that. So nice. Line art for the win. There's another option to hide the back faces. There is back face culling. Should this help with performance? Is it performance or yeah, speeds up calculation, especially for when you only want to show visual feature lines. Massive improvement in performance then, because you can basically hide whatever is on the other side. So cool. Is this on by default? Awesome. Super nice. There is another setting in, it's a new setting in the line art modifier that allows you to keep the contour when using face mark filtering. So I added this one without actually reading the description. So let's read it together. When enabled, it will keep contour around the object instead of hide them by rule of face mark. So the object can always have full contour while filtering out some of the feature lines inside certain regions. So from left to right, this is a mesh setup, face mark without keep contour and with keep contour. Ah, there you go. So this one keeps the contour, this one doesn't. This comes pretty handy. Yeah, because sometimes you just want to hide those faces, but keep the overall contour of the entire mesh without having to make yet a new line art modifier. It's all part of the same modifier now. That's super neat. The list of changes for Grease Pencil and line art, I think it's there, it's done. Let's switch. I have a few updates in the asset browser. So let's see. In the asset browser, some of these changes are already in in 3. Gotta make 3.0 from now on. Although there is a new 2.83 release, fixed release coming, and the 2.93 of course still has like an entire year ahead of us. So we're gonna be talking 2.x for a while. Let's see. The new changes in the asset browser is that now you can drag catalogs into the top level. That was a limitation, and this one I think it made it into 3.0, that now you can just drag and drop catalogs all the way to the top level. It was more of a mistake that it wasn't implemented in the first step. The light preview, now it looks much better. Now it has an actual preview. I don't know if there is no, there is no picture here, but it looks, let's see if I can make one very quickly. Well, very quickly. I haven't used Blender that much. I made a new character a while ago, but a few weeks ago. But other than that, let's see, mark as asset. Let's hope it shows. Yes. Maybe the spot. Oh, can I remake this? There you go. Yes, this is a spot. And if I make it, there you go. That's nice. So it indeed works. And you have new previews. And I've seen some, like when you use IES lights, that it looks even better. Because it actually takes the info from there, even for the preview. So yay for that. And yay for performance. We have performance updates all over the board, but this one is the biggest one for the asset library. Indexing was added some time ago, then it was removed because it was causing some issues. It was disabled mainly until some issues were fixed, and now they're fixed since last week. The indexing is back. So that means super fast loading of the asset browser for the second time. So the first time that you load the assets, it's gonna cache that, and the next time it's gonna be super fast. It's gonna be an index, like searching on a local drive or so. Just as fast. Okay, time to switch topics. Let's switch into something a bit more sexy for most people. Let's talk about cycles. Cycles X, cycles is now just cycles. Well, let's see where to begin. I'm gonna close some of these tabs before I run out of everything. Okay, first of all, this is kind of big news. There is a new object type that can be rendered now. A new object. How often do we see a new object type? The object type is not exposed yet here, but now it can be rendered, and it's called point cloud. You can enable it, I think, from the preferences. I'm not wrong, from experimental. Yeah, point cloud type. Yeah, there you go. So point clouds, yay. You can now render those in cycles. Point cloud rendering. It's for CPU rendering, it's using Embry, and GPU. For GPU, there is our own intersection code. There is optics integration, alembic procedural integration, and it's just crazy because this can be used for rendering sand, water splashes, particle motion graphics, and so on and so forth. The native point cloud object is much more memory and time efficient than just instancing meshes, like the good old instancing mode. So yay for that. I wonder, has people done any? This has been around for a while, like over a month. Have people been using this already, like bringing point clouds from other software, or using our own internal like Alembic pipeline for that? Motion blur is supported even. Volumes inside of the points are not supported, but hey, motion blur. Great news. Such as performance improvement. This one is a change in the sky, in the Gauss, I don't know, it's using Gauss-Laguerre quadrature for optical depth calculation. What does it mean for you and for me that not familiar with this? These very smart people over here. Well, Gauss, yes, but the other guy, I don't. Or girl, I don't know. What is the update? Well, by using this method, it allows for using fewer evaluations which goes from 30 milliseconds to 23. So it's not super, it's a huge change, but overall it seems to, but it helps. Of course, it's better. Cycles doesn't matter much, but there is a patch for Eevee coming up, which seems to help a lot more. The results also are more accurate, 3 to 10 times less relative absolute error compared to classic ray marching. So I would need to see renders to notice the difference, but any speed up is welcome. So okay, there is this change involves a feature that has been added some time ago. So the merging of images with different sample counts. It's great when you have, for example, a render farm, or when you want to render, like tonight, render 100 samples and tomorrow another 100 samples, and then you can merge them. Well, this was limited to renders without adaptive sampling. Now you can. Now adaptive sampling is supported by this operator. It's still only exposed in the Python API. It's not exposed in the UI yet. So I think it's in the BPY operators cycles or something like that. BPY.ops cycles. Yeah. Merge images. There you go. Oops. Sorry, I was covering the screen. Okay, there you go. So there you go. So this is the operator, now supports adaptive sampling. I wonder what's missing to expose that in the UI. Is the experience maybe? Let's see. The other improvement is that Optics now supports temporal denoising. So the denoise animation operator, that again is only exposed in the Python API, the same way that I just showed here, that this denoise animation has been exposed again, and it's been modified to support temporal denoising with Optics. This requires renders that were done with both the vector and denoising data passes. So I wonder if there's any demos. No, there's just a lot of love for this. but yeah, it re-renders it denoises using animation data. So the frame before, the frame after, denoised. That's so cool, or interesting, according to Brecht. That's awesome. I wonder why, like, what's missing to expose this in the UI, in the user interface. Another change. So there has been some changes in the UI. There was a bit of a confusing terminology in the UI when related to auto tiles. Now it's called use styling, because it wasn't really automatic, and it was just more of a toggle to use or not tiles. Also, it was a bit of confusing with the old auto tile size add-on. Also, the adaptive scrambling has been renamed to automatic to avoid confusion with the adaptive sampling. What else? Okay, let's talk about a bit of compiling time. So if you have a newer SDK for optics like 7.4, that is now enabled. That it's you can now compile with that. What else? You can now render, if you have a Apple Silicon computer, you can now use Metal GPU rendering for M1s. For M1 GPUs, it's not yet supported for AMD or Intel, but hey, I wonder, is there any in open data? The Blender, is there any? Okay, no, I don't have time to check, but I wonder, has anyone tested this? You, Apple people, have you tested rendering cycles with Metal GPU? I believe you can enable it from the same place as always. In system, you should be able to enable it from here. let's let me know how it goes. Then also this is just exciting. I just this commit was just exciting. I added it to the list that the CUDA hip optics support has been removed of the options for macOS, because now everything is gonna be metal, heavy metal, light metal, because it's gonna be render fast, hopefully. But yeah, I wonder, like, if I search the data and can I Apple M1? Oh, there's already Max and Pro. Oh, nice. Can I do all of them? Pro and Max. Like, I just want to see everything. Interesting. CPU render time, median render time. Does it show as CPU or as GPU? I wonder. It's not even listed there yet. Huh. And this 293. Oh yeah, because the benchmark is still using that. This needs to be updated for 3.0. So never mind. Shall we switch to another section? The video sequence editor. The people were asking for it already here in the chat. So okay, this is such an improvement for usability for drag and drop. Now you can drag and drop a video into the preview mode. So the drag and dropping was limited to the drag and dropping was limited to this area, to the editing, the timeline. Now you can drag and drop directly here in this section. So for example, if I have an image, would I be able to drag and drop here? There you go. I can drag and drop it. Yay. You can also drag and drop from here if you have, for example, let's see. Why can't I triple click in here? Anyway, so if I go here, there you go. I can also drag and drop. Nice. Can I delete from here? Yeah, they added the delete. There's many now shortcuts that work in both places. So that is pretty neat. Can move things and delete. Can I shift D still? No, cannot shift D, because you should go into shift D and then move. Also, when you shift D here, like, it's not working yet. I'm just thinking out loud. If you shift D, where does this go? It should go up here, right? Or it should make space between, maybe, like put it in between. How would that work? Also, what if you are at the end of the limit, 128, I think, or 64? What happens? So yes, bunch of questions to be answered, but it's getting there, and that is super promising. What else is promising? That now you can drag and drop data blocks. What does it mean? That you can drag and drop from the outliner, like a sound strip or a video strip or an image. Isn't that great? It's like a media bin for Blender, like for the sequencer, by using the outliner. That is awesome. So thank you, Team Peter, for working on this and the drag and dropping. It's just amazing. It's almost a media bin. We just need to make substrips or somehow, like, get a movie clip and then have a little piece of it into a new, like, make it into a new strip or a new data block or a sub data block, because the data block now is a full video. We would have to be able, yeah. I don't know, the future, it's so exciting. Can't wait for the sequencer to get that, to get like another preview where you can just, you know, cut a little section of the video and make it into a new strip. Well, like every other regular video editor. The next setting It's clamp sound strip when adding a movie strip. You know, sometimes you have you ever had this happen where you drag and drop a video and the sound for some reason is longer than that movie strip? Well, now it's gonna be clumped, so yeah, so it fits in the timeline better. This is a change has been done. Disable interactivity in combined view. So if these are two different, it's the same editor in two types, right? The sequencer and the preview. The problem is that we also have the sequencer and preview, which is this. And this is a bit of a, it has huge benefits, that meaning, for example, you can have an entire sidebar all like going all the way from the top to the bottom of the editor, and the same with the toolbar. However, yeah, it's tricky, right? Well, when you select things here in the in here, what operators affect? Like if you're with the mouse here, you should be able to move around, and if you're with the mouse here, you should be able to move. Like G goes left and right, but here G would go around, like, you know what I mean? It's a different context altogether. And also the menus are different when you use two different editors. So you have here one menu, and here you have another menu for adding, because you can't add strips from here. So a lot of work has to be done there to, yeah, to define better the scope of each one of the editors. The next and last change in the video sequence editor is that now you can copy paste strips with animation. The animation from those strips is going to be carried over. And I'm just having a drink of water because I'm about to jump into the nodes update of this week, which I think is the longest. How far are we? It's already 6 o'clock, 45 minutes in, and I still haven't even covered the node editors. Okay, let's, without further ado, let's jump immediately into the feature of the week, I think, of the week, of the month, of the 2 months, because in the node editor, this is not just for geometry nodes, compositor, shader nodes, texture nodes, is everywhere that uses nodes. You can now drag a link, a socket, and when you drop, it's going to show a search input. Look at this. Right click, select. That's another software, I think. No, that is Blender. Okay, there's a mockup. Cool. Almost going to illegal grounds here. So this right click, select proposal from forever ago, 2020, but this has been proposed in the past, I believe. The proposal was that when you click, drag, release, is going to open a search menu, and that's it. It sounds fairly simple. I think there was another post. Yeah, it sounds fairly simple. However, the implications were huge. Like, well, look at the amount of love that it's getting. The patch was started time ago by Juan Fran, but it was taken over by Hans, and the implications were like huge. Why? Because when you drag and drop, you want to see only the type of the socket types, like not only the node, but the socket itself that you want to connect it, that is of the same type or a compatible type. If you drag a color socket, you want to show other color stuff. But hey, color is an array, and vector is also an array. So why can't I just connect also to vectors, for example? Yeah, there was many questions to answer, but it's here. It's just awesome. Drag and drop, search, and it even is smart enough to look inside of the node itself, and you can drag it into, for example, let's see. So let's go. This is just amazing. Just amazing. Let's do some demo time here. So to say you have a value, and you want this value, and you want to do like add or multiply. Like it looks inside of the node, so you can connect it into, so you no longer have to add a math node and then change into power or round or floor. You just type it and it's there and it connects it to it. I know it must be sound silly for people that come from other software, or this is just awesome. Finally, search inside of nodes. That's awesome. Thank you, developers, for working on this. It by looking at the commits and the previous commit and the things that the implications of this, it really looks like it was a pain in the butt because yeah, you really have to accommodate for this when you add a new node to like what is it gonna be compatible with this socket, with this other socket, and it adds a lot of overhead. But hey, so cool. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, the weight thing that I mentioned in the past, in the previous hour, in this, I think in the UI section, I talked about something about weight for search. Well, that now is using the weight for example, when you drag from a vector on RGBA or a color socket, it will give you, for example, if you use a vector, it's going to give you the vector math node options higher than a float math, for example. This is what I was talking about before. Just great. So now if you drag from a vector, it's going to show the vector math. And if you drag from a regular value, it's going to show you the other sockets. It's just awesome. It would be cool to add like the color of the socket next to it. So in vector, you will show like a purple icon here and then a gray. Like I think it would be better to identify it at a glance, right? Or am I just drunk? Just to see at a glance the type of socket that we have. Okay, what else? Oh, the compare node. In the compare node, now the operations have been added to the drag search menu the same way that the math node has it that I just mentioned. Now you can use the compare less than, greater than, less than, or equal. All the options in the menu, in the drop down, they are available in search. So that's so cool. That's so cool. Okay, support internal links for custom sockets. So those made by add-ons, for example. Now the internal links, so for example, when you delete and reconnect, like Control X, for example, you delete a node and reconnect the tree, it wasn't supporting the custom sockets. Now it is, thanks to Omar, Squircle Art. Thank you, Omar. Omar. What else? There is a new node in town. Add vector map range node. Yes. So this replaces the old attribute map range node, and it also adds the shader version of the node. So yeah, this is why I didn't mention it in the geometry nodes section. We are in the nodes section, by the way, not in the geometry nodes even yet. So vector map range is a new node in town, also available for shader nodes. What else? Oh, node 3 update handling. So performance, how much faster it is. Well, just magnitudes faster. Basically, there's a massive refactor in the way the updates happen. So, you know, sometimes it happens that there was in right click select post, several posts about it, that sometimes you change something, like you delete a node that is not connected to anything, yet the tree is still updated. And it's super frustrating, especially when you have big scene and yeah, cycles or Eevee, or I think in Eevee is more tricky, but in cycles especially, there were cases, or in geometry nodes, there were cases where you would change the value of a node that is not even connected to anything, but it will still redraw. Not anymore. That should be fixed, and should be fixed on a case by case, I think. So if it's not properly updating, it should soon. Okay, performance. There is an performance improvement, a massive improvement, about 25 to 30 times faster when freeing a node tree. What is freeing a node tree? Well, for example, undo. I believe that it counts as freeing. So how much faster? Yeah, from a node tree with 4,000 nodes, that's a pretty massive, like Erindale level node setup. It went from 30 to 50 milliseconds to about 2 milliseconds. So faster than my screen can redraw. Super fast. Okay, copying. What about copying the node tree? I think this is related to undo. So again, performance when undoing a node tree went in this test of about 4,000 nodes, which took 42 milliseconds to undo. Now it takes 6 milliseconds. So that sounds like it can scale up pretty quickly. Let's see. That's all with the node, with the overall nodes. Let's go into the geometry nodes. Where to begin? Where to begin? There is improvement. I need water, sorry. I'm so excited. Okay. In geometry nodes, now there are tools as an introduction. There's new nodes to control the mesh, to deform the mesh. You can control time. It's like super powered. No, you can't control time, but you can use time to affect other things. Okay, let's go in steps. And let me close a bunch of tabs here. Okay. First, time. Let's talk about time, which we are over time. It's 55 minutes in and I still have a giant lead. Okay, new node, scene time node. What does it do? It gives you two outputs. One is the current frame in frames, so an integer. I don't know if it gives you subframes, but there's also a seconds. Allows you to give you time in seconds. Shawnee Matthew, you are there. Here's the person responsible for it, and you are in the chat. Let me know. Frame. Does it also gives you subframes? Please. We're gonna see a lot of by Johnny in these updates, but yeah, the scene time, it's here. So is it probably it even says here about subframes or not. Anyway, we're gonna get the answer soon. Let's continue. The next update, the next node in town is geometry to instance. So you know, instances are much faster to compute. Now you can convert a geometry into an instance. So cool. So yeah, geometry to instance, it just takes a bunch of inputs and it outputs as one instance. There you go. Okay, so no, it doesn't give you subframes. It gives you an int. It's an integer. I should have seen the color of the node, right? of the socket. Yeah, it's an integer. It's a yeah. It would have been a value like gray, but it's a greenish, which means an integer. So full frames. The other node in town, I'm gonna go like this because there is a whole bunch of updates. Geometry to instance node by Jack Luke. Awesome. Next one, curve primitive. There is a new it's a new primitive in town. It's called curve primitive arc. It's an arc. Allows you to create arcs. So it's not a closed circle. And I think here, there you go. Points and radius. A bunch of outputs when you have a point. And for when you set the radius, it's a bit more limited. But yeah, this one wasn't even like we don't even have this in regular. Wait, no, I'm getting an update about the subframe situation. It's actually a float in master, only an int in the patch. So it was changed then. Okay, cool. And we got a pan here. Pops says that it's really cool for architecture. Let me. Well done, well done. It's that was a good one. Okay, cool. Next. Okay, Hans, you are here. Hans Goody is gonna. I was gonna make another pun, but it's gonna change your life if you do modeling, if you do procedural modeling, because today, I think it was added today, there is a new node in town to extrude. You probably have seen this in the builds for the fields prototype like months ago. There was a node called Extrude and people were really excited about that node, but then it didn't make it into master. Now it's here. It was added today. So it's not in the current build. Like if you go here, if you download it, you're not gonna find it, I believe, because this was built last night. Unless the servers are using the same time. 5 AM and this is 2 AM. No, it's not there. Just wait a few more hours and you're gonna see the amazing extrude mesh node. And not only look at the great massive commit log. It propagates the attributes. So if you have vertex, I think there was an image here that better shows it. Oh, by the way, all the links to this are in the description. There is a link to paste all that contains the link to everything that I'm seeing here. But yeah, the extrusion propagates the attributes. I cannot wait to see what people are doing here with this. We'll be doing here with this. So cool. Okay, you know what else is cool? When you can manage your mesh even further. So say you want to take these vertices and convert them into a face, or the other way around. You're on a face and you convert them into a vertex. What do you use? The new dual mesh node by Juanes. What can you do with that? Well, let's see it in a monkey. I think there was a picture here. There you go. So yeah, every vertex is now a face and every face is now a vertex. Super neat. Dual mesh. There is an option to preserve boundaries. When you preserve the boundaries, it's gonna keep. Oh yeah, it keeps the shape, the boundaries. Otherwise, it doesn't. It's a bit more, a bit smaller. So cool. This one has been around for a while though. This is from October. Did it make it to the patch is from October, but I wonder if this made it into 3.0. Because again, what I'm showing here, no, because when I left, it was beacon 4. So no, it didn't make it. There's a new node in town. Again, Mesh Island is a new node with it's a field type with fields that allows you to get the number of islands inside of a mesh. So the floating bits of geometry inside of your mesh. And in this screenshot actually only shows one output, but if I mesh island, in the latest version, it has 2. One is the count, so the number of islands, and the index, which one to use. And it's a field, as you can see by the diamond shape. So you can do pretty crazy stuff with that. Here I actually have the commit again by Johnny with the new output for the number of islands. Okay, so if you know that when you extrude things, the normals can get a little bit funky. Sometimes you see these weird colors shading in your meshes. That's because the normals are not the proper way. I think if you do it in geometry nodes, maybe you have a better, you probably know in advance the direction of the normals. However, now you can flip the normals of the faces, because you can flip the faces now, the direction of the faces. So you can do crazy things such as this. You can flip in real time. And in the on Twitter, Sancudo, Daniel Salazar, today he shared a setup here where you can very easily make an like an outline, like, you know, the trick that you do with the solidify modifier where you flip the normals and assign a material. Now you can do it directly all in geometry nodes. How? Well, it's here's a setup. Basically, it's taking the normals and multiplying it by a number that is exposed in the modifier, then set the position, so you just offset those vertices, flip the direction of the normals, and then use backface scaling so you don't see that, and then you apply a material. Bam, connect it to the geometry. There you go. Geometry nodes, NPR, outlines. So cool. I need to check that one out. Is that, do you think it's going to be faster than or slower than the solidify modifier? Probably fast. I want to say faster, but I'm not sure. Any dev in the chat? Someone is ringing my bell, but I have way too much things to cover, so I'm not gonna go pick it up. There is a new node, again, new node in town by Jacques-Luc that allows you to scale individual elements. What kind of elements? Well, you can scale the faces, the edges, and that is all, I think. Yes, this node can scale individual edges and faces. When multiple selected faces or edges share the same vertices, they are scaled together. The center and scaling factor is averaged in this case. So yeah, this node is best used with the Extrude node that is currently being developed and now in master that I just mentioned, but it can be useful on its own as well, of course. Food delivery. No, it's not food delivery. It's probably something else, but I can't. I'm working here. Although it looks like I'm just having fun reading all the cool stuff the developers are adding. That's because it's true. Okay. So you can scale the elements and you can also accumulate function node. What does it mean, Johnny? Tell me. This function node creates a running total of a given vector, float, or an int field. The group field index allows indices of the input to be tallied together in separate bins. The leading and trailing outputs return the running totals starting at either the first value or 0, respectively. The total output returns the total accumulation of all the position of the field. I think I got a bit lost here. Accumulate field. You have the group index and then you have leading, trailing, and total. There is a blend file to test here. Yes. I want to see more examples of this, but if I get it right, I need to go continue with the other updates. Mate delivery. Yes, I think it's mate. I ordered some, but too bad. I'm gonna have to go pick it up somewhere. The next node in town, it's one that has 4 field inputs for the mesh topology data. So this creates 4 new nodes. It's not just the one, it's 4 new nodes which provide topology information for the mesh, such as vertex count, face count, for vertex neighbors, for the vertex neighbors node, face neighbors, edge vertices, face area. What are people doing with this stuff? You get the face area and you can use that to maybe like distribute things or to like, I'm so curious to see what people are doing with this. So interesting. There's a whole bunch of nodes like that added this week. So the edge neighbors node, this one I think it's the one I just mentioned, that it creates a new edge neighbors node which outputs a field containing the number of faces connected to each face. Isn't it the one? No, it's similar to the face neighbor. It's just a new node. which is edge neighbors. Then there is another node that gives you the angle, the edge angle node. It's just crazy. Edge angle, convert to degrees, and then connect it to the viewer. Can we use the viewer already? Why did I miss? Radians. You can expose numbers in the viewer, or this is just the overlay. Oh, sorry, I've been disconnected a bit with the update. Maybe I missed that one. Okay, next, the geometry nodes add domain size node. This is a new node that gives you for meshes or for each domain. So for the mesh domain, it gives you the point count, edge face count, face corner count. The same for curves, point count, and spline. For point clouds, the point count, and for instances, the instance count. Even with a nice little icon here. How's that? Domain size. So much info that you can get. You can control one. It's just being mind blown here. There is a new okay, now this is a change in the, it's a new node, generalize compare. It's massive. So it's a compare node. I already talked about this one before, but it wasn't this was added. Yeah, this was added before I mentioned the previous change. Is that sometimes I shuffle them in, like I put it next to the search node stuff. So yes, compare node. Then field at index node. This allows you to access the data of other elements in the context of the geometry. So if you want to retrieve from another geometry, you need to use the transfer attribute node. So for example, the node can be used to generalize what the edge vertices node is doing. This node setup does the same as if one would use position 1 output, but it allows to retrieving that any information from the vertex, such as the point or vectors. Info overload. Yes, so many updates. I am mind blown. And there is even more, though. Okay, some of the changes have been more of like renaming things, more like making things a bit more consistent. Rename curve parameter and add the index on spline. So the curve parameter node has been renamed to spline parameter, and there's a new socket called index on spline to the node. This output is the index of the current point on its parent spline rather than the entire curve. So only in the parent spline, in case we have a bunch of them. Then the string to curves socket has been renamed. Today, many users seem to think that the output from this node is a single curve with multiple splines. However, it's not. So this patch renames the geometry output socket from curves to curve instances, so it's more clear. So you know that there are instances. I think everywhere where there are instances, it takes that name. Would it make sense to have a different shape for that? For instance, or like a little. No, if it's in the name, then there's no need for the socket to be different. Okay, so rename transfer attribute geometry input. So conceptually, this is the geometry data that the data is taken from, not the target of an operation. So it's been renamed from target to source for the transfer attribute node. In the spline length node, there is now a point count output field input. To control the points of each spline in the spline domain. In the point domain, this is the number of points on the spline that contains the given control point. What else? Oh, wow. Nerves. Nerves. There are updates in nerves. The set spline type node has been improved when converting into nerves. So look at the difference. Well, you probably notice if you have used this node before, you notice that when you change between NURBS and Bezier, that the shape changed completely. Not anymore. In the new algorithm, when you change between NURBS and Bezier, it stays the same. So yay. So fixed. Super cool. Who made that? Let's give credit. Piotr Makal. Thank you for fixing this. What else? Add signed output to edge angle node. I think this is what Johnny mentioned here. But yes, edge and angle node has a single angle output. I'm just reading out loud here, so there's many things that go over my head. I tried to cover all of the feature. I tried to test the feature as much as possible before talking about it, but sometimes it's just there's a picture here, but I don't see the node setup to see it, to see the change itself. However, many people are considering this to be fire, so I agree. So okay, nodes. Propagate attributes in instance on points node. Yay! When you instance on the points, the propagates are gonna the attributes are gonna be propagated. That's so cool. Part of the support dynamic attributes on instances task. What else? Oh, we talked about point clouds in the past, and now Cycle supports point cloud rendering. Well, now you can specify a material. You can set a material with the set material node on point clouds. So yay for that. And the delete geometry node now supports instances. Yay for that. Okay, a note about the angled unsigned by Johnny here. Unsigned is faster, so you use that if that's all you need. Good to hear. If you only need unsigned, it's gonna be much faster to calculate. Gee, I thought I reached the end of the list of geometry nodes, but no, I still have. Okay, let's go quickly. The triangulate node now has a selection input socket, so you can specify where to triangulate. Then speaking of selection, the attribute statistics node now also has a selection input to specify what attribute or which section of your mesh. Then UI changes. There is a new overlay called timings. It's gonna show the amount in milliseconds or whatever, how long it takes, of how long roughly each node has taken. 2 hour stream? I hope not. Well, that means that next week I'm gonna be I'm gonna have maybe an easier time. And I still have to do this in Spanish. Kill me. All right. Time. It's important. And it's also important to see how long each node takes, or each node group take. So with this overlay, you can see in milliseconds how long it takes, so you can improve, you can optimize that, especially if you do, for example, here in these node groups. I think they're by Arendelle or some asset pack, node pack online, which if you are giving it to the community and you see, hey, this is taking 4 seconds, maybe you can go inside and try to optimize it, for example, especially if you use it a lot. Okay, the next, okay, optimizations, yay. The set position node has been optimized by Jacques-Luc. How much optimized? Well, in a simple benchmark with white noise on 1,000,000 vertices, the speed went from 20 milliseconds to 4.5 milliseconds. That's huge. That's quite an improvement. In the multi-threaded case, it went from 32 milliseconds to 22 in the single thread case. So the more threads you have, the faster it is. Yay for that. Yay for performance. You know, sometimes you don't even have to go over your nodes to to update them. Just wait, and the developer is gonna optimize your node setup for you. The set spline type now has been parallelized by Eric. The speed up gives around 2 times as fast on a curve with 1000 splines on this little test. But I guess if it's parallelized, if it's multi-threaded, the more you have, the faster it is. Like the more it makes use of it. The cube primitive now is faster as well. How much faster? Well, from the execution time of the node went from 250 milliseconds to 140 with 500 power 3 vertices. So a whole bunch. Yeah, almost nearly half as of the time to calculate it. Then I guess once this feature was introduced, it really made a lot of developers look into their nodes and their specific nodes and see, how can I improve that? So it's a feature for developers and for users. Okay, the improvement in performance by Jack here is by better devirtualization for sliced virtual arrays. What does it mean? Well, it means that in some cases, it can lead to more than twice the performance increase, because math nodes can better optimize for the case when the slice is a single value or span. So math nodes twice as fast in some cases, in some circumstances. Every little step is welcome. Again, another performance improvement by Jack to reduce the overhead when processing single values that leads to, in extreme cases, to up to 2 or 3 times faster. Probably those cases are probably never hit in practice, but it's good to get rid of overheads. Again, more performance improvement, multi-threading in the field evaluation. How much faster? I guess again it will depend on how on each case, but for example, in some performance measurements of a field evaluation involving noise and math nodes, in a million vertices, it didn't really make that much, from 133 to 120. However, in this range, from 100,000, it went from 30 to 18, and 10,000, it went to 20 from 2.7. That's so much faster. So every little bit helps. Not only in speeding up the calculation, but also in using less memory. So this update by Jack Luke, it measure up to 20% faster field evaluation and reducing the number of separate memory allocation. So less memory, I think. Yeah. And there is another patch that was added, I think right after that, that improves in performance. How much faster? Again, in very large fields with many short-lived intermediate values, this change can improve 3 to 4 times the performance. And in such cases, peak memory consumption is reduced like by a factor of 100. So from more than 25 gigs to less than 200 megabytes. That was a big one. That's a huge. That's so cool. And of course, faster, from 500 milliseconds to 150 milliseconds. But yeah, 25 gigs to 200 megs. Nice. More. Support instance attributes when realizing instances. What does it mean? Again, performance improvements. How much faster? Here you can see the numbers. 1,500,000. Well, you can read here in the description all the changes, but it seems to be pretty huge. Like 1,000,000 by points, from 1,000 to 150. Curve lines, 1,000 milliseconds, 100 to 200. It's just gonna be super faster. Again, parallelized mesh grid primitive Hans has contributed this patch that on a Ryzen 3700X, it ended up being 2.5 times faster than before for the mesh grid primitive. That is awesome. Domain interpolations also got improved. And there is there a performance improvement? Why did I include this? I think it is related to another patch. But more multi-threading wherever it's possible. And I think that's it with the performance improvement in the node. There are more that are in other areas of Blender, but I think for geometry nodes, that's everything. There are some patches also that don't include numbers per se, but there's performance improvements everywhere. I tried to get the ones that have some numbers in it. Okay, another update. The handle type, set handle type node now has less left and right by default. It used to have left, I believe. So now the default is what people usually use based on user feedback. The handle, curve handle position node now has an option, it's a boolean for choosing if it's either relative or not, the position of those handles. And finally, it is not really related to geometry nodes, but it's attributes in general, the attribute workflow in general. Now there is a new setting that allows you to convert the attribute. So in the attributes panel, in the mesh settings, mesh properties, you're gonna see this. Convert attribute, mode, domain, data type. You can even change the mode to which kind of attribute, vertex color, vertex group, or UV map. That's so cool. It's a step towards generic attributes. Okay. Is it too fast? That's it. Geometry nodes is too fast. I give up. No, don't give up. Don't give up. I think at some point, geometry nodes, well, most of the developers should at some point switch into like the physics nodes, right? So at some point it should stop. However, the community keeps contributing this more like modeling, parametric modeling oriented nodes. We're gonna continue getting this stuff, this kind of updates until it's over. Not over, but until at least most of the basics are there. Okay, now that the extrude node is there, what else is in store? It's like inset, and inset is like extruding but without moving, right? Without. Okay, let's switch topics because I'm already on 1 hour and a half. So, gee, I still have Compositor, performance, potpourri, Python API, and add-ons to cover. So let's quickly jump into the Compositor. There is a new node in town. There's 2 new nodes in Compositor town. One allows you to convert color spaces from and to any of the color spaces that Blender includes, that Blender comes with. And look at the celebration here. Super cool. If the color space is the same to or from, it's skipped. So it's optimized in that regard, and it's been implemented for both the tiled and the full frame Compositor backends. Next node in town, it's the scene time node, which I already talked about for geometry nodes. This is also now implemented in the Compositor. And to not be confused with the regular time node that was already present for years in the Compositor, that one has been renamed to time curve. So in case you didn't know, here, if you search for time, this node used to be called just time in the Compositor. There is now the scene time with seconds or frame. Hey, why are these gray? This one, is it not integer in this case? Okay, I'm not gonna look now, but should probably be like, if it's the same, it's just giving an integer. How can I know? There's no debug. Anyway, Oh, here I get a value, and then the value, can I, yeah, what do we do with the value? Okay, anyway, let's see. No, anyway, I'm not gonna play with this, but maybe this color should be green if it's gonna be an integer. All right, that is all for the compositor. Let's quickly switch into performance. Whole bunch of updates. One I already mentioned is the asset indexing. The commit I shown before, I think it was the task itself. Now I had it twice. Okay. This word doesn't get said a lot in this show. Metaballs. Optimization in metaballs. So this is a performance section. Everything that I mentioned now is related to speed. So the tessellation. So tessellation is like the process of converting these nice looking quads on a mesh into something the computer can interpret, like triangles. So the tessellation now is faster. How much? Around 19% faster on a metaball with 1 million faces. So, and I guess if this is multi-threaded, then it's gonna be, or it's just, no, it's not multi-threaded. At least it's not mentioned here. However, every update is welcome. This one is multi-threaded, is the parallelization of the bounding box for a mesh. This update by Hans makes it so on his Ryzen 3700X on a mesh with 4.2 million vertices, the performance was around 4.4 times faster, from 14 milliseconds to 4.4 milliseconds. That is so cool, because it is everything, like bounding box calculation. It's done all the time, if I'm not wrong. Okay, for point clouds, this was also introduced again by Hans. So it's not only for meshes, also for point clouds. Then a huge refactor, again by Hans, regarding normals, calculation of normals. So how much faster? Well, it depends on what you're doing, basically, but it seems to be touching FPS. So calculation for animation itself, for set position, for sprite fright tests, mesh line primitive tests. So very exciting when something so down deep in the core of Blender mesh system that it touches everywhere. Not only, you know, geometry nodes, but also animation, playback, I don't know, rigging, everywhere. Physics in the future, who knows? Okay, another speed up by Eric. This one, it's a search. So when you're searching in the UI, now it's much faster. So how much faster? Well, I think I saw a video, no? Is this a commit? No, it's a patch. But yeah, basically when you have a massive geometry nodes tree, depending on the zoom level, it would go from, it used to go around 75 to 120 milliseconds. So it can be very slow. I think Erindale also showed it at some point. I think on, I don't know if it was on YouTube or on Twitter, somewhere, that, yeah, with a large tree, it was a bit slow to navigate the node tree. This one is actually cutting it to half, more or less, around 40 to 75 milliseconds with this patch. So yay for that. The next improvement is regarding, it's like also TBB, is a library that is used Blender everywhere. So in this case, around 20% faster to realize instances code in this case, but also should touch other areas in Blender. Library overrides also got huge improvements in performance. Improve the speed of resync. So when you have a library override and you made a change in the original library that you need to resync, that should be yeah, so be magnitudes faster. How much faster? It's no number, I think remember seeing, but it was just basically very slow before, like extremely slow. There is another commit related to that, which is giving another 5 to 10% speed up, but on top of the previous one that I just mentioned. I actually used this feature the other day, the resyncing. It's just magic how it works. With geometry nodes on a character that was animating a separate file. Okay, potpourri section, Python API and add-ons. I think we can make it less than 2 hours. Shall we? Okay. Potpourri. Potpourri. We talked about nerves. Is the world... Not the world. The world is already using nerve for a while and they are cool. Just Blender, that nerve system is in the Ice Age. Not anymore, it seems, because there are developers working on it, like Larinas. Look at this. It's an improvement on nerves as a whole. Look at how the previous nerve with a resolution of U and B of 5, and look how it's not even. It used to be not even, and now it just works. It's even better anti-aliased. How? I don't know, but it's just better. Again, with the sphere, look at the sphere. Suddenly there's like, it's not even. There are more edges around here than other places. Not anymore. Now it's even. So this used to look like a seam, like a shading issue in nerves. Not anymore. Isn't that crazy? Nerves are getting love again after so long. Okay, this is potpourri section, so it's a bit of everything. I'm gonna jump from nerves now into the batch rename operator in the outliner. Now you can batch rename collections, not only collections, but also you can batch rename other ID types such as object, data, materials, volumes, and lights, which is not in this commit, but it's in a commit afterwards. Okay, this one, I saw the screenshot and I was just freaking out. If you do cloud simulation, this will change your life. Look at that. Have you ever run into this? Well, it now looks like that. Isn't that great? Do you notice the difference? The way the triangulation is calculated is now different. So you see it's all horizontal here. It's in the shortest diagonal. I think now is the longest one. So it leads to these kind of results. Super, super cool. The improvement was done by Henrik Wiesel, user Wiesel. Okay. Again, potpourri. Let's switch completely into I/O. Who uses OBJ format still in 2022? Lots of people. Even though there are better formats, there are still a lot of people that rely on OBJ. And great news for you, there is a new exporter that is in C++. It's no longer in Python, so it should be better, more performant. I don't know how it compares right now. At the moment that I'm recording this video, this live stream, there are two. There is one that says new, and there is the old one. We just had a discussion today that this is wrong, because this should have the old one should say old and should even go away. This is it's an add-on, the old one. So it could be just a matter of changing the name to like deprecated or legacy and be disabled by default, but still ship with Blender in case people find it that work better. And this one needs more testing. So if you are using OBJ for work or for whatever, give it a try. Test it. It's called Wavefront new. It says new here. May change the name in a few days, but it says new. It's in C++. So welcome C++, OBJ to the party. Okay, cool. There is a new type of compression. It has been it was added time ago and it was disabled. Now it's enabled back. The WAB compression has been enabled again. Okay, library overrides. They are now available. You can now override cloth, collision, force fields, and motion paths settings. They can all be overridden right now. Super, super welcome news. Overrides are amazing. I used them the other day again. I was overriding some geometry node setting of a linked character. That's just so cool. So cool. Okay. Mask editor. You can, well, no, this is a UI UX fix. The active layer that you're editing, the one that you have active in the UI, in the list, now it's gonna be drawn on top, right? It used to be drawn in the order that it was set there, but yeah, if you're editing, you may want to see what's going on. So now it's gonna be drawn on top. Then UDIM update. There is now support for virtual names. And if you speak Georgian, someone, Tamuna, is started the translation of Blender into Georgian. So it has been added to the list. And yay for more languages. Okay, let's quickly jump into the Python API updates. In the animation editors, when you have there is a new Python API context that returns the selected actions. So in the NLA, you can have multiple actions selected. That one gives you this, I think it's how it's called. Selected visible actions allows you to like perform Python stuff in those selected actions. What else? This is all Python, so it's mainly for people that make add-ons. There is a new layer and pass index parameters to when you load an image. So if you were using a multi-layer EXR, you were trying to read a multi-layer EXR, there was no way to access specific layer or index, pass index. Now there is. So yay for that. This change is a change mainly. It's not so much an improvement, but it's a change that you may want to be aware if you're using the Python API to like saving, to write files. The path now must have a full path, not just the file name. So previously it would write untitled.blend. Now it's gonna fail. You need to give the full path. So make sure if you're making add-ons that save files, keep that in mind. And there is a new children recursive property for objects and collections, which gives you, it's similar to what you have for bones. It gives you everything that it's recursive, children recursive. Okay, let's talk a little bit about add-ons, and that's all for now. Some add-ons have been removed from Blender 3.0. You may have noticed some of them have been changed in order to accommodate with the new policy regarding internet access. So the policy is that Blender should never require internet access for anything. Or if in the case when, for example, at some point Blender is going to get a updater or a way to check for updates, that is an internet connection, but the user should at all times know when that happens. Beforehand, you have to click on like, okay, I want Blender to connect to the internet and check for updates. You shouldn't do anything behind your back. It's for transparency. There were some add-ons that were accessing the internet, and that for the policy is that they shouldn't do that, basically. At least the add-ons that come with Blender. If you get the add-on from the market or from somewhere else, it's okay. You can do whatever you want. But you are aware, or it's up to the developer to tell you that, hey, I'm connecting to the internet. So the policy is that every add-on that was connected to the internet has been removed or modified. The Magic UV add-on, for some reason, it had an online updater. even though it was included with Blender. So all the the update comes with Blender itself. It was part of Blender. I think it was just a leftover legacy from another time. So yeah, so the offline update feature of the Magic UV has been removed because it comes with Blender. It's updated every time Blender is updated. So no need for one. I already mentioned this in the past, but the Blend Kit add-on has been removed. I already mentioned that they offer a much it's a downside that doesn't come with Blender anymore. However, because now they share it on their website on Blender Kit, they can actually add features and libraries and things that were not possible when being part of Blender. If there is a library that is 50 megabytes, it doesn't come with Blender to keep Blender light. Okay, next, Regify. The UI of Regify has been simplified by Dimitar, and it's yeah, it looks a lot nicer. This is the old one with not even capital labels. Now it looks more Blender 2.8-ish. Speaking of Regify, there is an update to support uniform scaling of limbs via the master control. And also there is support for separate IK and FK controls for the toe. For the little toe. So in the toe you can have FK and IK, and there is separate control, like the amount of detail. These people, it's awesome. Okay, the PLY add-on has been refactored, the importer, exporter. Then the OBJ and material roughness was exported inaccurately. It has been fixed. However, because it has been fixed, it means that the older object files, OBJ files exported with Blender, although this, I don't know if this is using the new exporter or not. No, I'm a bit confused. However, yes, it was inaccurate. So keep in mind that you would notice a slight difference in the values for roughness, for material roughness. Then the FBX IO, when exporting FBX, is now much faster. How much faster? Insane faster, thanks to Sarah Banan. How much faster? Well, there is a game that this user was developing that used to take 20 minutes to export the FBX. Now it's 20 seconds. 20 minutes. Wait, imagine waiting Blender for 20 minutes to export. It's amazing that the user just went ahead and fixed it. So what happened is that it wasn't ignoring those bones in rest position, basically. So now it's a bit smarter and skips that. 20 seconds from 20 minutes. That is pretty cool. Speaking of FBX, the blend file path now is added to the metadata, to the header of the FBX file. So it's cool to know where does the file came from. And with that, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary, I hereby declare this list of updates over. 1 hour 45 minutes, and I have to do it again in Spanish. Okay, that was a lot of things to cover. That was most of December, all of December, end of November, all of December, and most of January updates. This Wednesday, 2 days from now, Blender 3.1 enters beta stage. That means the feature that made it into 3.1, most of the ones that I covered today, they're gonna be polished for a month or so. Or, yeah, no, let's go. Let's see the proper time schedule. Okay, Blender 3.1. Developer.blender.org. Go to 3.1. Peak on 3 until March 22nd. So it's more than a month. It's all of February plus a few days. Then enters Beacon 4, which is when the release has to be. Oh wow, I have to start working on the release notes already. Oh gee. Okay, and we need to pick a candidate for the splash screen for Wednesday. That is a busy week. New splash screen on Wednesday. Blender 3.1 beta, Blender 3.2 alpha. So the updates never end. Thanks everyone for staying until the end. Sorry that it took so long. It took 2 weeks over what I had expected. I mentioned it on social media. I basically went on holidays to Argentina to see my family and got COVID there. It was fine. It was just that I couldn't leave the country for 14 days. So I had to stay there. So yeah, I'm glad to be back here in the dark. That is a window and that is outside. It's dark. I had fun. I don't know about you, but I think we should do this again next week. Same place, same time. Actually, not the same place. I'm gonna be streaming from the studio. I'm now at home, but I'm gonna be streaming from the Blender studio because I ran my quarantine time. Let's do it again. Thanks everyone once again. I hope you had fun. I haven't done this in ages. So, okay. Watch out your ear holes because well, by the way, if you speak Spanish, the channel is called Blender Hoy, like hoy in like today in Spanish, Blender Hoy. I'm gonna be streaming there in a bit, maybe in half an hour or so, the same show but in another language, in Espanol. So other than that, I will see you again next week, same place, same time for another episode of Blender Today. Watch your ear holes. It wasn't that loud, was it? Thanks everyone. I had so much fun. Let's do it again next week. Bye.